Here we go. Okay, so I've got this perspective view I've set up with the apartment that I've already given you, and I've made a few changes, obviously, but I haven't done a lot. All I've done is add some families from my library. So the furniture here is all just families that I already have, and I'll give these to you if you want them. And then the walls there, I've just changed the material slightly. So I've made that a brown colour, and I've made this a lighter brown or cream. And on the deck as well, I've put some materials there on the floor, both on the deck and the interior, actually. And I suppose the walls outside, I have changed the materials and put a family out there. So just a few changes, but haven't affected the structure, other than also I do have this window as well that you maybe didn't have originally. And it's worth just considering some things like that before you go too far with your materials setup. You want a few elements in there just to give it a bit of context, but not too many. So if you put all of your design elements in there, I will have lots of sculptures and things I can give you to make this look more like a fully decorated space. I'll put all of those things in the end, but if I put them in now, it's really going to slow the rendering down, and I just want to get a good idea how the main materials are going to look at this stage. So it's pretty good, in a pretty good state for me to do that. You could even do it with the file the way I've given it to you, without very much at all, maybe just a few lounges or something in there just to give you some different shadows and things. All right, so that's just the plan view showing the same area, and just going onto the view control bar there, you can see it's set to realistic, and that's why you can see the textures. I'm going to set that back to shaded, and I'm not going to worry about saving. And you'll see that, again, the floor and the deck clearly have different materials, but they're different to the materials that we're showing with realistic. So with realistic, it shows the texture that's going to be used with rendering, and we'll get onto that in a minute. With the shaded, and actually the hidden line, and the this other one, consistent colours, is just another type of shading. And you can see they're all quite similar. The only real difference between hidden line and shaded is that it adds the colours. But the texture is still the same. The pattern there it's using is still exactly the same. Consistent colours is exactly what it says. It just has the same colours no matter what the view is. Whereas the shaded view, the colours will change slightly, depending on your lighting. And then again, realistic uses the rendered textures, or the rendering material, and so that is completely different to all the others. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I applied those materials. I'm going to just select that floor, and I'm going to put it back to the original floor that it was. It was generic 150 originally. And then in the perspective view, you can see that it's gone back to, again, to what it was, so just a plain grey floor. So I'll highlight it here again. You can change materials in perspective. Not much else, but that is one of the things you can change in perspective. So I can do that here just as easily as any other view. And then edit type takes me into the type properties before then edit to get into the structure. So that's just a habit you've got to get into. If you're not used to doing that already, that's something you should be doing all the time. Okay, and I can see there the material is set to by category. Right, I'm going to cancel this because I don't want to change this floor, generic 150. I want to leave that in case I need to use it for something else later. So I'm going to duplicate this instead. I'm going to make a new floor type for my new kind of floor that I want. Right, so I'll call this floating timber flooring. Might be a good name, so I know what it is. And then to actually change this, while I'm doing it, bring up the preview so you can see at the moment it's still just the one grey floor layer. Edit for the structure takes me back to obviously the structure, and then insert down the bottom will add a new layer. Now here the top and the bottom matter. So at the moment this new component is at the bottom of my floor. Using the up button I can move that to the top. And so I can't see anything at the moment because it doesn't have a thickness, but if I give that a thickness, I'll just make it 20. You can see now that it's got a new layer over here to the left. Okay, so I can still move that up or down. And you should see that, or once it goes below, there we are. But I'll put it back to the top. And so then the only other thing I'm going to change, aside from the material, is this function. I'm going to set that to finish 1. Now, don't worry too much about what these functions mean. It's pretty intuitive. Okay, so if you're putting something on the outside, typically it's going to be a finish. Things on the inside tend to be the structure. But don't worry about substrate and thermal air layer and all those other things, and membrane layer. Generally going to be either structure or finish. Now, this one I can just leave set to by category. We're not really going to see that that big component anyway. The finish, though, I want to set to my flooring. So I'm going to choose that material, which is set to by category, and browse lets me choose a new material. Now, this is where you really need to remember this one step, because most people forget it. I'm going to start with a material that's close to what I want. Okay, so I've got a wood timber material that's close to the wood flooring that I want. Now I'm going to duplicate it. This is the bit everyone forgets. Okay, so I've already duplicated the floor, now I'm duplicating the material as well. And if you remember that, it'll give you a lot less trouble when you're working with material. So I'll just call this wood timber floating floor. So I need a new material and a new floor. That's the idea. And now if I hit OK, I've got a new material, but at the moment it's exactly the same as the one I copied. I'm going to go to change that. On the Appearance tab, you can go to Flooring, and you'll see all these nice timber floors right away. So I'm just going to choose one at random almost, that'll do. They're mostly good. So just remember, the timber flooring is in flooring, not in wood down here. Wood's got a lot of good timber as well, but not the floorboards. Okay, so that's going to be good enough. To double check the size, I'm going to click on the floorboards there, the image of that timber, and then I can see really clearly how big that image would be in my scene. So just counting here, you can probably quickly count the number of floorboards. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 or so. At least 16 we'll say. And so I might want my boards to be 100 mil in the scene. So that would be, if we've got 16 boards, 1600 mil. It's that easy. And so that's done. I can just hit done. And now, before I finish the material, again, another good habit to get into, go back to your graphics tab, and you'll see I'm still on this wood timber floating floor. When you're on Appearance, it's easy to miss that. You can still tell up here, but when you're on the graphics tab, it's really clear that this is the one you're working on. And I still want to do some work on the graphics anyway. So I'm going to set a surface pattern just by clicking the Browse button. That's another good habit to get into. That way I can set it to model. And again, I can just choose the size I want then. I don't have to guess. So 100 mil horizontal is exactly what I want. And the cut pattern, I'm going to leave that set to crosshatch, just so you can see a cut pattern in action. That's all pretty good, but maybe the shading colour, I actually don't mind that one, but just so you can see, I'm going to use Render Appearance for shading, and it's going to try and match the rendering colour with just a simple plain colour. And it does a pretty good job usually, but that's a little bit dark, so I'm going to turn that off again. Click on the little shading swatch and make that a bit brighter. I'm happy with that. So just click OK, and now you can see the new material shown in sections. So we see the cut pattern. I'm just going to hit OK, OK, and I can't see very much yet because the floor's still selected, but I'm going to click to one side, and now you can see the shading colour. You can see, I'll just zoom in a bit so it's clearer, the lines that come in from the surface pattern. So that'll be there in my any plan views that are set to hidden line, shaded or consistent colours. They'll all, or even wireframe actually, but you usually wouldn't use wireframe as a presentation view, but hidden line and shaded, consistent colours, or use that line surface pattern. The realistic view, though, will use that image of the timber boards. So you've got those basically two materials in one. Every material has the graphic settings and the render settings, and they're separate, but obviously grouped together in one material. So I'll go back to shaded, and then you can see out here we've got a deck with the material already set. So I'll just show you quickly. If I select that floor, edit type, this is one I made earlier. So when I go to edit the structure, you can see there's already a new one there, just like the other, and then going to the deck material, it's already been assigned. So the only difference really there is that the surface pattern is set to these 400mm squares. It's still got a diagonal crosshatch cut. And then in appearance, you can see it's using this image for the tiles.
Did you download that?
No, that's just from the library. Yep. So these are all pre-made. So this Autodesk library, it's actually a library of rendering materials. And they're all pre-made. You notice you've got the little lock symbol there to show you that you can't change this. It's just one they give you. Once you get the material over to here, though, then you can change whatever you like. So, you know, they all have their own images, but you can easily, I'll just click here, you can easily then choose your own.
Okay, that's way
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so that's the basis of all materials in Revit, and I'll just cancel this. I don't want to make any changes there. All right, so walls are the same. I'll just select one of my walls here. I've assigned materials to a lot of these, so I'll use this one and this one actually. I'll give them both the same material, but I'm just going to have to go into another view so I can take off the materials I've already assigned to them. So I'm just using a tool called Paint here, which I think most of you have used, but if you haven't, I'm going to go through that next. I just want to show you before that how to assign directly to a wall, so you probably would have a pretty good idea of this anyway. I just want to make sure. So selecting the two walls there with Control, I'm going to go Edit Type, and again I'm going to duplicate this wall. So other walls already are using this type. I've got plenty of walls that are set to be existing 100mm wall, and I don't want them all to change. So I want a new kind of wall. I'm going to go to Duplicate, and I'm going to call this, let's call it Proposed, give it a proper name. Proposed Stud, oops, Stud Paint Brown. Okay, so that's a good naming convention, putting the things in that order. And then going to edit here, again we've only got one component at the moment, so I'm going to go to Insert, and again move this one up, and I'll make that finish one. This thickness, I'll just make it 10mm. I'll make the structure 80, and then I'm going to insert one more component and move that down to the bottom. And notice here we've got exterior side at the top and interior side at the bottom. So your walls always have an inside and an outside. And so here I'm going to make the inside 10mm as well, but and again finish one. But I'm going to make this one the tiles. So you'll see zooming in here, I've got a component either side of my wall now. And so I'll start with the exterior side. Just going to go to Browse. Remember, to get the full list of materials, back to Graphics. And then I'll go to the, I'll start with the wall paint, or you probably won't have these actually, so you'll have one though called Wall Material, or probably Wall Material 1. So you can start with that. It's a really good one to start with for paint. Just make sure it's got wall paint. No, I'll show you how to change it to wall paint. So it's actually not starting as wall paint, but I will change it to that. So yeah, start with this one, Wall Material 1, duplicate, and I'll call this Wall Paint Well, I'll make it brown again. And I already have one with that name, so that's, but this will be okay. Okay, so then again, straight to appearance. And then there's a paint folder, and you'll see there are some pretty good paint materials there, but they're for old paint that's got detailed, flecks and flaking and things like that, which is overkill. Even this white paint is sometimes a bit too detailed with the bumps and everything. So there are other materials. If you go to default, then you should be able to find, there is a wall paint material, there we are. Okay, so notice how here it comes up as wall paint. Okay, so that's a much easier one to work with, and actually will do a better job in most cases. Okay, so just remember that's in the default folder. Right, so now I can simply click on this color swatch and get something close to what I want over on the left-hand side here. So that's a brownish color. You can get any color you want in this hue selector, or you can go to the Pantone colors if you like using those. You've got the full Pantone color palette in there. So you've got all those different methods. I'm going to cancel this though and just use the hue palette here. So make that a bit more of a reddy brown and bring that up so that's pretty close to what I want. Maybe actually darker isn't bad for this one because I'll do a lighter one next. So that's fine. And you get a preview there. So that's good enough for now. You can adjust the finish. So there are lots of different preset finishes there and the application. So that's a good thing to play around with as well. Okay, and you can also change the render quality to get a better idea. At the moment, I've got it on production quality, so it's giving me a pretty good idea already. Yours will probably start on medium quality, but you can change that at any stage. It doesn't really slow things down that much. Okay, so to finish this simple material off, back to graphics, and I'm just going to tick use render appearance for shading. I'm happy with that color. I don't want a surface pattern here because it's just paint, and I don't want a cut pattern because it's a very small component. I'm not going to see that anyway. So I'm going to hit browse and then just no pattern, and that sets them both to none. So that's my new material done. Okay, and it's, you can't see it at the moment because it's selected, so I'll go down to here and you can see now that is brown on that side. This side now I'll make tiles, so I'll go to by category again here, just click on the browse button, and starting with, here we are, ceramic tile. That's my starting point. I'm going to go to duplicate, and I'll call this ceramic tile bathroom. I've already got one with that name, so I'll just ceramic tile bath will do. Okay, and then again to appearance, find one that I like. So in the ceramic folder there, I tend to use this one quite a bit, so I'm going to use that again, the Mosaic Tiles. And then back to graphics, even though they're quite small, top Mosaic Tiles, I don't mind having a larger surface pattern there. So I'm going to set this surface pattern not to something that small, but smaller than this. So again, hitting the browse button. If you're not sure what you should be doing here, the main thing is that you set model for surface patterns. Okay, so that's the main reason for hitting the browse button instead of just choosing the down arrow. And so then I'll just choose, I should have 100mm squares. Or do I? No, 50mm squares will do. Yeah, here we go, 50mm squares, that's fine. You can make new ones, that's quite easy, but I'll just stick with the ones that are in the list. So OK, and I'll have smaller squares there. The colour, I'm happy to leave that set to, oh no, sorry, I do want something a bit bluish, so I want a light colour, so I'll tick this, clear that, and then I will make it much lighter though. I don't want a dark colour in the bathroom. Okay, so that's done, and again, OK. Okay, so in plan, I'm not going to see very much. That's largely because it's set to coarse. So I can see the surface patterns. To see the cut patterns, we've got to go to fine. And now, again, it might be hard to see. That's largely because of the scale. So I'll change that to 1 to 1. I'll go to 1 to 10, just so you can really get a good idea what's happening. It was the line weights hiding those elements. So they were there, it's just that the lines are too heavy. And so that gives you a good idea sometimes when you're going too far. People try and put a lot of detail into their walls and things sometimes, when at 1 to 50 even, a 10mm component is not going to be visible because your lines are thicker than that. So that's another nice thing Revit does for you. You can see at the scale you're working at how far you need to go with all that detail. So the 10mm components aren't doing anything for me in plan, but in the rendered views, they'll be really helpful. But, oh yeah, one other thing I just wanted to show you. In shaded, we will get the colours. Now there are no colours coming up on these walls because that structural component doesn't have a material, but I'll just put that in now so you can see here, existing is the material it uses. I'll duplicate it and I'll call it existing structure now. Just really want to show you this because this is something that confuses a lot of people. I'm going to set, say, grey as the colour because it is an existing thing. I don't want it to be coloured. Maybe it's got to be inconsistent colours. Let's see. There we are. Okay, so now I can see that grey colour in the wall. So I just wanted to be obvious what the shading colour does in your material. And so finally now, if I go to the perspective view, I'll see the material, but unfortunately it's got the tile material on the living side. And I don't want that. I want that on the bathroom side. So back into plan. And you'll see if I select that wall, it's set to finish face interior. That's the way I drew it. But there's no problem changing that now to wall centerline. Okay, so notice how there, I've got the grips going through the middle. And that means if I flip the wall, it's going to flip over the middle, not over the outside. So I'll flip this wall now, and the tiles will be on the inside. This one, I'll just show you. If I hadn't done that, I'll flip it, and you'll see the wall's going to move because it's flipping over the interior side. Here, if I just change that again to wall centerline first, and then flip it, it won't move. Into the 3D view, and there's my brown. Okay, so I'm just going to zoom out a bit here, and then I just want to show you decals as well. So that's the last thing, and they're very similar to the things I've been showing you with materials. Alright, so I've got some decals already on the wall here. I'm going to add one over to the left. Alright, so it's just on the Insert tab. You've got decal, and if you just choose Place Decal, it'll come up with one if you've already made it, but if you haven't made any, it'll take you into the new decal box, which I'll just show you. So Edit Type, and then Edit, and that shows you the box you'll get if you don't already have one. So all you need to do then is click Browse. And now I'm just going to cancel this and show you, it looks a little bit different sometimes. So just here, sorry, it's under decal types. There we are. So it looks like this sometimes. If you haven't got any decals at all, I've already got 3, but if you don't have any, it will probably come up with this, and then you need to click the new decal button there. Don't worry about the name, you can call them whatever you like. Once you've done that, then you need to click Browse over here to get to the image. But it's basically the same process as what I just showed you the first time. So I'm just going to choose another image here. So I've got some paintings, that'll do. Okay, so I've got my image, and then I can place my decal. So remember, place decals on the Insert tab. Okay, so there it is. It's that easy. Once you've chosen it, it will just come straight in, and you can place it on any wall, floor, or you know, most surfaces. You can't put it onto everything, but you can see it's even picking up the lounge there. Yep, no problem. Yep, absolutely. Yep. Okay, so there, absolutely, yep. So I'm going to just put this there, hopefully in line with my, you can see it's picked up the line from the picture over to the right. And then I'll just hit escape a couple of times to cancel, and now I can select that and just stretch it in the view, so I'll get it up to a decent size. And then I'm just going to use the arrows, the left arrow on the keyboard to nudge that over. And there we go, so something like that. And so that'll come up in my renderings. Alright, so I'll go back and just make a new view so you can get an idea of the sort of steps I did to set up my test render that you saw earlier. So I'll just go to the drop down here to make a camera view, and I'll have one maybe just near the dining table here, pointing over to that corner where the decals are, so I can see most of the things I want. Doesn't hurt to go to realistic here so that then you can actually see the images. And then to do a quick setup for a render, I'll just give you some basic steps. Turn the shadows on, and you can see right away, without me doing anything, the sun's coming in a pretty good way. Now, if yours isn't doing that, you can check it going to sun settings here, change it to still up the top, and then it should pick up Sydney as your location. Now, you can start then with any of these presets. I'm going to start with Spring Equinox, duplicate, give it whatever name you like. So I'll call this render sun. And then to see what it's doing, make sure you hit apply. And you can see now it's changed the sun completely. I've got it now coming down here only. So I'm going to bring the sun now back around by changing the time. I'm going to make it earlier in the day. So 9, I should get more sun back in there. There we are. Okay, and so you can play around with that if you're not sure how the sun moves throughout the sky at different times throughout the year. This will show you exactly. And we happen to have north in this project set in a good direction, so we haven't got to play with that. So that should give me some reasonable lighting into that area. I've got direct sunlight, and so that's the main thing you want to set up initially. And now if I just go into my render dialog, so down on the view control bar again, the teapot, and then all I'm going to do is change the scheme to interior sun only, and then hit render. Now, this shouldn't take all that long. I do want to show you it once it's finished. Okay, so obviously quite dark and gloomy over in the corner here. So that's what I wanted to show you, how you can fix that still while you're doing your test renders. If you go to adjust exposure, and then I'll just make that a little bit brighter at the top. So it's very sensitive. You just want to take this a little bit to one side or the other. So I've gone less than 1 there. Apply, and you can see that's really brightened it up. But now it's too bright in this area. So I'm going to tone down the highlights by dragging this slider to the left. Apply, and I can see that change right away. So I'll just keep taking that further to the left. I'm not going to go all the way because it'll get too washed out. But yeah, that's getting better. Now the midtones, I want to bring them up. So that'll bring up this dark area a bit. And then the shadows, I'm going to make them lighter. So again, that should bring up this dark area. And the white point, it's a bit too warm, so a bit too orange. I'm going to make that cooler by taking that to the left, so more blue. And that will just give more realism, essentially. It's a bit unbalanced at the moment. That's getting better. And saturation is a good one to look at as well. So it's actually a bit overly colourful. So I'll take that to the left and make it more grey, and that again will make it a bit more realistic. I still want that colour to come through though, so I'll actually make it a bit less, or a bit more saturated. It's getting better. Okay, now notice these splotchy discs of light. They're your photons. So at low quality, you don't have as many photons. With higher quality, it adds more, which smooths out that, that lighting. So don't worry about those things, that's just because of the draft quality. I'm going to hit OK here, and then putting it up to medium, it'll automatically get rid of those things. The TV will still look pretty bad though, so they're blurred reflections that are quite costly to render in terms of the processing. So you need to have probably high to get that to look good, and then that's going to take a lot longer. So medium though would only take a few minutes, maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and so that's not a bad setting to go up to when you want to see it just looking a bit better. But at this stage, even on draft or low, you can get a reasonable idea. So I'll go up to low, and it'll maybe take 30 seconds to render, and will give me a better idea again. Okay, so if you're wondering why it's doing 2 passes, it does 1 pass first for the bounced lighting. So remember, there's only direct light coming onto the floor and some of the lounges there, and then it needs to bounce off those areas into these, indirectly lit areas. Okay, so as the quality increases, you get more of those bounced photons, and you can see now those discs of light are much smoother. That's just on medium. Also, that's just on low, I mean. On medium, it would be better again, and the light will be more balanced as well. I'm not going to show you medium. It'll take too long to render, but I am going to just put it onto medium and then go to edit, and then copy to custom, just so I can show you one little nice setting. If you tick windows and doors here, that'll also make your interior lighting more balanced. Just coming back to that idea of photons. So just some little tips when you're rendering if you want to test how your materials are looking. But if I was to render that now, it'd probably take 5 minutes or so. So I won't do that, but I'll show you one that I did earlier. Okay, so there we are. So that's basically the same view with similar lighting, and that took, I think, an hour to render, maybe an hour or 2. I'm not sure, I went to sleep. So something like that. Anyhow, have a look at materials. Even if you haven't got your design worked out at all, you can be experimenting with materials, and it's a really nice thing to play with. I'm surprised sometimes how nice things can look when they're quite simple based on just a really nice image. So anyhow, I'll stop the recording there.